Arcade games are almost a myth now, lost to the 90s when they were supplemented with more experience-based games rather than the expected flamboyant but short-lived action they used to be. Console and PC games largely now strive for hours and days of busy work to keep us hooked on repetitive tasks, open planes of collectible stuff and side quests ahoy. It was not always like this, and in many ways games like Destruction Allstars, which is free with your PSN subscription at the moment, takes me back to those arcade days in our homes. The question is though, does it ignite the spark? One thing many games and studios have now is legacy, and Lucid Games is no different. Recently established, but it is comprised of designers and artists that have delivered games such as PS2's Wipeout Fusion and HD on the Vita, and also the almighty Dreamcast epic Metropolis Street Racer, which they later moved into the superb Project Gotham Racing series on Xbox. Now the game is lavish with Rocket League meets Destruction Derby, all topped off with some crazy taxi. They're certainly set to make some crazy money, or at least that was the aim. The choice to offer this free with PSN Plus was a smart one, because as a full price game I would not be happy with its contents, that's for sure. The fact is, it is now a free choice alongside your subscription means the value it brings right into that sweet spot of arcade online action, which is perfect for me, as games that are fast in and out are of a great benefit. The hook is simple, with you playing as one of 16 avatars, all with unique tricks and hero vehicles that offer spike saws and ram covers, among others. Gameplay wise, in the vehicle and on foot sections, it's certainly got its heart in that arcade style as well. It's very easy to play, its fault tolerance level in terms of input timing and controls is quite wide. It does things for you and helps you get into the right decisions and right directions a little easier, and it's very floaty overall. It certainly has a skill based tactic that ramps up the better you get, but it's certainly not a difficult game to jump into. The art of each is clean, well animated and stylish, if very generic and forgettable by and large. Like the trinkets of custom attire, those dances and wins, it all feels well below my age group, and the in-game purchases are certainly not something I would entertain. But this cosmetic add-ons are just that, and can largely be ignored, thankfully. Once you pick a star, you then get to pick your game type, which offers both off and online variants. Each have a variation on the derby based theme: smash up your opponent's car, grab the most loot and bank it to win, free for all, king of the hill, or even crazy taxi adventure rides are all on the cards. These all take place in large dome-like arenas that vary in backdrops, but not much in detail or design or complexity. Again though, the arcade style hook and simplicity is front and centre, and that is what I see the game as. Visually, the title has a great deal going for it: strong, vibrant colours with bold prime colours and angular design. The characters leave me cold, as does the edgy vibe they attempt to portray, but again, this is not aimed at my old arse for sure. My son does like the game in fact, and the Spanish Tiger character has already become his favourite. Some of the gameplay here is from my son's enjoyment of it, which is a great example of that target audience they're going for. Backing up the game's art design is its use of post-processing effects. Rather than go all out with ray tracing as a PS5 exclusive, it was a possibility. Instead, the mixed up of old-fashioned cube maps on arena-based reflective surfaces and a stochastic screen space reflection pass along car surfaces. It works to enhance the PBR materials of the title that straddle a line between accurate and cartoonish. Something enhanced by the exaggerated animation style and action, from long gangly running cycles to dramatic pre-game antics of the combatants. Using Unreal Engine 4 has certainly enabled the team to dig into the content over just the tech itself, which is a good thing for the players. Unreal Engine 4's TAA helps smooth out pixel pop or shimmer, which is needed from such a sharp and contrasting IQ and art design. It's vital also the fact that it uses Unreal Engine's DRS solution, Dynamic Resolution Scaling, and from my counts it is dynamically going from a high of 3200 by 1800 and then dropping as low as 2304 by 1296. Now from my counts, these moments are rare, but they do crop up when there's huge explosions, particles, destruction, volumetrics, alphas, all of that fills the screen, and those sections where they drop down that low are hard to spot, but they can happen. All of it is bolstered by the fact that it uses a reconstruction technique within Unreal Engine to reconstruct back to a full 3840 by 2160. And the results are good, with the heavier action moments causing those brief dips in res to be short-lived and pretty much hard to spot outside a thorough analysis like this. This is not to say you can't spot some of these dips in resolution, you certainly can. Well, the point where you can really is when you jump on the back of a car to hijack it, or somebody's hijacking yours, you can see the character models, the stochastic reflections, and that specular aliasing on the top of the vehicles and the edge and the trim. You can see where it starts to break down a little and shimmer, and these sections can have it hovering somewhere around 1620p, 1440p. But they're generally short-lived and hard to spot, and outside of this it always looks sharp, clean and close to that 4K image to not really be an issue. And that's because, as I've always said for years and years, dynamic resolution scaling is the perfect compromise to performance issues, and the game does target 60 FPS. And it does a very good job by and large. It's consistently locked at 60 in most of the areas where you're running around trying to pick up trinkets or just driving around catching up to other areas. But if you have a takedown, or you get rammed in the arse, or something explodes, which happens quite a lot, then it can certainly have some dips into the high 40s. The worst points I managed to find here, certainly on the Carnado level, where you have to ram the cars, get the gears, and then you sacrifice your car in the middle with a big tornado spinning around. These points here can have it dropping down as low as I've seen when all these cars are coming in. You've got that volumetric smoke, lots of heavy alpha particles, explosions, all of that can ramp up the performance issues, and that means it drops resolution and drops performance down to those high 40s. You can feel it, it's definitely there, but generally it's not a bad performing title, as the averages pan out here in my 5 or 6 minute tested section across multiple games including online. It doesn't really come out of 59 FPS as an average, and that means it's pretty consistent and you shouldn't really worry about it.
Box stop delivering a huge wreck over, and the crowd goes mild. Come on, hit him for real.
And this is as bad as it gets, and it's quite stressful here. You've got that tornado in the middle with a strong alpha, it's very opaque. You've got all these particle and debris falling around, you've got the particles from the explosions and the fire, and then you've got volumetric light, shadow casting light sources, so it really is quite a dense area. Generally, it's pretty consistent at 16, it doesn't feel bad. Some of these zooms in when you take out and take down a car, and the debris breaks down, it zooms in, you get a little bit more detail there. And it uses shadow casting light sources quite often. There's a spotlight that sits above cars, and it uses pyrotechnics heavily. Any collisions, sparks fly off, debris, and when you're fighting people run around on foot. It's a very comical looking game, it's a fun looking game, one that certainly appeals to the younger demographic. My son saw me playing it, and then a few hours later he was still playing it. There's options here to expand the game by putting in more game types, more game modes, really use that crazy taxi mode and possibly put it into a cityscape where you've got other cars on the road and other people racing to get the fastest pickup and the most points, and use that collision and the destruction they've got in the title. That could really add a great deal if you put it into a cityscape and really pushed hard on that crazy taxi feel. But it is a PlayStation 5 exclusive, so aside 60 FPS, aside that 4K targeted resolution, it also loads impeccably fast. Straight from the dashboard, straight into the game, it's a few seconds, and just picking a character and jumping straight in, you're literally a few seconds from those areas. So again, it does show that even smaller teams can get used to the PS5's hardware and utilise that SSD and I/O infrastructure to get you into the game much quicker. And that also carries over to the DualSense. It utilises the built-in speaker to give feedback as you're playing with the sounds and the trinkets and things exploding, and then the tap on the controller as it vibrates left and right as you run, and using the sticks and those haptic triggers, the feedback as you drive and hit and impact other vehicles. It all adds an extra sense of weight and realism to the title, and again, it's good to see smaller teams utilising the PS5 hardware so quickly and so early on in the generation. One of the better modes is tucked away in the rivalry section when you're playing against CPU controlled combatants, and it is pretty much a crazy taxi mode. That's actually quite an enjoyable game, and they could have done a lot more with that, and maybe the aspirations were there as a full price title, but in the end it got cut back and pushed onto PSN with a slightly lower content level. A flamboyant homage to the arcade heyday of yesteryear. It ticks those boxes perfectly with fast, frantic and fun-filled action, but like those titles, it also has a short lifespan, and once those 10p's run out in your pocket, you'll likely find another machine to chuck the rest in. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this fast look at Destruction All-Stars on the PlayStation 5, and there'll be more videos coming later today or maybe early tomorrow on the channel, along with my content that's now up on IGN as well. I'll be pushing out on both sides, so please stay with me here and over on there to improve my reach, and hopefully I'll get more coverage in the coming years ahead. I'll catch you on the next one.
It's all-out mayhem in Gridfall. Give it your all to knock the opponents off an ever-shrinking arena. Every knockout costs a precious life. Last standing wins. And the crowd goes mild.